Welcome to the Back to School Challenge. I'm going to work on a teacher's desk and a student desk. This challenge is hosted by Eliana over at Why Not Redesign. My desk is that orangey tone maple, but we're going to change all of that. My assistant Isabel is removing the hardware, and it's given her a little bit of a hard time. Sometimes those old Batman hardware pieces need a little extra nudge with a screwdriver behind the plate. I am removing the excess varnish and finish that's on top just by using a scraper. You'll see that this will save so much on the sanding, and I don't have to use a stripper. My smaller curved scraper helps get all of the finish off of the edges. You can just see it coming off in ribbons and falling to the ground. Next is sanding, and I start with an 80 grit sandpaper, and that's going to be helpful in removing the remainder of this finish, hopefully. Next, we move to a 120 grit sandpaper. And lastly, a 220 grit. That'll make it nice and smooth. After the sanding's over, I use a tack cloth to remove all of that sanding dust. If you don't have a tack cloth, you should grab a couple and keep them in your workshop. They're amazing for removing all that dust. You could never get that without the help of the tack cloth. It's a specially treated cloth that everything, the dust and sand, grit adheres to, but it doesn't leave a residue on your furniture piece. So next I'm going to use Dixie Belle's No Pain Gel Stain. This is an oil-based formula in the color American Honey. It's kind of similar to what we took off, but it's a little warmer. I'm going to be pairing it with Silk Anchor or maybe Black Sands. I haven't decided yet, but either way, we're going to use a black for the bottom, and I think this is going to be a really nice look. I give it one coat, and then I decide I want it a little deeper and do a second coat. When that's dry, I use Dixie Belle's Clear Coat in Satin to put a nice coat of finish on there. pour some into a saucer, and then I use a blue sponge that has water in it and wrung out, and then just put it in the product, lay it down, and smooth it out, overlapping my strokes, and it gives you a beautiful finish. Now it's time to work on the rest of the piece. You can see the contrast between the oranginess of the bottom finish and the warmer tone in the top. The top looks a lot lighter now, but it's really going to warm up with the black bottom. So I'm cleaning all of the drawers inside and out, and also the body of the desk. There's some dried glue in a couple of the drawers, so again I use my scraper to remove that. I'm not quite sure yet what I'm going to do with the inside of the drawers, but whatever I do, I definitely want that lumpy glue to be gone. Next I clean. I use Dixie Belle's White Lightning that I have already mixed in a sprayer bottle, and then follow that with clear water to rinse. I'm going to be replacing these handles with something a little more updated, so I need to close up some of these holes. Fortunately, I can use some of the existing holes and I won't have to drill any new ones. So I'm just covering up what I don't need. I'm using Dixie Mud. I happen to be using the white color. It comes in brown, white, and black. Probably would have been better to use the black since I'll be using black paint, but the paint is so highly pigmented. In this situation, it's really not going to matter. As a matter of fact, the only time that I ever really noticed a big difference when I used a different color was when I was repairing a mirror, and you could see the white in the reflection of the mirror. It would have been much better had I used brown in that situation. There's a little stud detail on the desk, and one of the little studs is missing. So I looked for my wooden buttons, and then I realized it sort of had an angular shape to it. So again, I looked in some upholsterer's tacks that I had, and the shape will work. So I just cut off the pin part, and I'm just gluing the head where the missing stud is, and that will take care of that problem because I'll be able to paint right over it. I settle on the anchor color and begin to paint the whole piece. I apply a second coat as well. I think this paper is going to be just perfect for this project. It's actually a placemat, so the paper is a little bit heavier, and I just kind of trim it to fit, and I use that same Dixie Belle satin clear coat as my decoupage medium to apply it. So I was up in the air about how I was going to treat these drawers. So I decided, because I love that paper so much and I also want to use it on the student desk, that I would use it in the top middle drawer only. I only have 3 sheets of this paper, so I want to make it work for both projects, but I also want to preserve some of the history that's in the other drawers. I feel like it got a great glow up makeover, but in those drawers are little pen and pencil marks, and I just took that clear coat sealer, after cleaning of course, right over all of those pen and pencil marks, because I just feel like that is part of the history of the piece. So I don't know how you feel about it, but I think it's kind of a cool element. Let me know what you think in the comments. You're going to want to check out the playlist for this entire challenge. Everybody's going to have some amazing videos. I'll have it linked in the description box and also in the comments of my video. So I get started on the student desk, and of course I start by cleaning it, and I use white lightning and I clean it thoroughly inside and out. And then I'm going to use an 80 grit, then a 120 grit, then a 220 grit sandpaper to sand everything on this piece. I sand the metal as well as the wood. The metal was a little bit rusty, so that's why I'm sanding it. I have a plan for it, and I am not 100% sure how it's going to work. And then I mist it with some water just to get rid of all that sanding dust. I'm using Dixie Belle's Midnight Sky, and I'm going to use it on the top of the piece. My idea here is to make the top of the piece a chalkboard. You can use regular chalk mineral paint to do this. You first paint in one direction and then in the opposite direction, and you continue doing that until you have good coverage. I only needed 2 coats in this case. While that was drying, I got busy on the wood parts, and I used that same American honey stain that I used on the teacher desk, and I'm staining all the wood. I'm just using a chip brush here, and then I'll wipe it back. Next, I get to work on all that metal, and I am using Moonshine Metallic in Gold Digger. I mentioned before I wasn't exactly sure how this was going to work. I thought that I would maybe use patina on it previously, but then I really wanted to coordinate with the teacher desk. So I was really surprised. I was going to just do a sheer coat, and I got a lot more than a sheer coat out of just one coat of this paint. I love this paint. I think it's amazing. I've used it many times. I was just surprised how it took on this metal that, has seen better days. I've used it on wood surfaces, and it's great because you can build the color up. But I really wanted some of the old metal to show through, but I covered it a lot more than I expected it to. So I was pretty happy with the result. And then I got busy on the inside. I wanted to keep it cohesive again with the teacher desk, and I used this same paper on the drawer of the teacher desk. So I'm just lining the bottom of the inside of the desk. And now I'm going to use something called Stick With Me, and I am coating the bolts that are on there, and this is just going to kind of take it up a notch. So you put this product, this adhesive called Stick With Me, and then we're going to come back in with Dixie Shine, and you'll see that in a minute. After I apply the Stick With Me, I'm going to condition the top of our desk. So when you use this chalk mineral paint to make a chalkboard, so all I did was remember paint in one direction and then in the other, and now I'm conditioning the board. So I'm just taking my chalk and just turning it on its side and just going over the entire board and then erasing it. And that gets your chalkboard ready for writing and erasing. You can use a damp cloth to erase on it as well. So now it's time for the Dixie Shine. So I'm just it comes in a roll, and I'm just laying it on there and using a finishing pad, and voila, it's stuck to the adhesive. You want to let that adhesive tack up a little bit. So they suggest 15 minutes. I don't believe I even waited that long, but it worked beautifully. So remember what our pieces looked like before? Check them out now. My whole idea was with homeschooling that we could have a nice set for the student and the teacher that was cohesive and it looked great in someone's home. Thank you so much for watching today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Visit us at lavintagedecor.company. On Instagram, we're LaVintage Decor, and on Facebook, we're LaVintage Decor Altoona. Stay well.